Hey there, you want to know what 6 things narcissists do at the end of every relationship? By the end of this video, you're going to know exactly what to expect. Hey, I'm Rebecca Zung. I'm an attorney, I'm an author, I'm a narcissist negotiation expert, and I help people shift the dynamic and become the more powerful person when negotiating with narcissists. So if that sounds good to you, make sure that you subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell. Okay, so let's talk about the 6 things narcissists do at the end of a relationship. Well, remember, there are 3 phases to a narcissistic relationship. It is the love bombing, the devaluing, and the discarding. And remember, they kind of go back and forth between all three. And I definitely have videos on all 3 phases of the narcissistic relationship, which you can check out if you'd like. But in the end of the relationship is when they really, turn it on. That's when they start the smear campaign. And really, the smear campaign can start like if they feel like it's happening, they'll start sort of seeding it along the way. In other words, like they might say something, 6 months before the relationship ended to a neighbor, like, oh, so and so drank too much last night, and I'm so concerned about him or her. And then, when the relationship does collapse, they'll be able to say, oh, so and so is an alcoholic. Remember, I told you I was so concerned about that. So you see how they kind of plant these seeds along the way for the smear campaign. They're pretty good at that sort of thing. So even if they start to see that coming down the road, that they will start to, that smear campaign early on. Because remember, with narcissists, they live in a world that's very black and white. So it's very much, a world of winners and losers. And I got all the friends and you didn't. And I got all the money and you got none of it. And the kids love me and they don't love you. It's got to be all or nothing with them. And so they want to set it up that they look good and you look bad. So number one is they immediately start lining up their flying monkeys. That's part of their smear campaign. So right away, they've got to have these people that they feel like they can go to start saying, they're the victim, that they might even say that you were the narcissist, that you wronged them in some way, that somehow that they should line themselves up with them and against you. So that's number one. They will start lining up their flying monkeys. They will start in on their smear campaign. They will start getting third parties involved to try to make you feel isolated, to try to make you feel like the world is against you, that everyone is believing their lies. That's number one. Number two is the money grab. A lot of times you will see them either cut off credit cards if they're the moneyed spouse and you're not. They might actually go in and take money out of an account. They might start moving money, hiding money, draining accounts, changing ownership, maybe signing ownership over to other people, that sort of thing. And a lot of that can be accounted for, brought back into the marital estate, accounted for in the sense that, okay, that person already received that value, so therefore the other person is going to receive equal value from a different asset. So sometimes it's not like the worst thing in the world that it happened, but they don't realize that. So they go in and they do these sorts of things. Usually, if they do that sort of thing, it really reflects poorly on them. The judges don't like that. They don't like to see that kind of behavior early on. So it can end up working against them. But that is something that you sometimes see them do. So number two is the money grab. Number three is making you the scapegoat, making sure that everything gets blamed on you. You were the reason why it all went to hell, that the relationship failed, that maybe that they have, that you have no money, that you have to sell the house, that whatever it is, the business is in the tank. The whole reason the whole thing went to hell is because of you. And if this all sounds familiar so far, give me an amen in the comments, because I bet you guys have seen all of this so far. All right, so that's number 3. Number 4 is kind of takes you by surprise sometimes, but it's like last minute love bombing. What? Yeah, I know. Like, okay, all of a sudden they're back in your face, oh, remember how good we had it, or, we could always get along, or they'll do anything to save the relationship. They will go to counseling, when they said, oh, I'll never go to a shrink, that'll never happen. Oh, now all of a sudden they're being super nice and they're doing all the things that you wanted them to do in the first place. Last minute hustling to try to do things that they should have been doing all along, or major future faking. I'll change. Everything's going to be different from here on out. And by the way, I have a whole video on future faking if you want to check that out. But, that's another thing that they will do. So that's number 4 is last minute love bombing. Number 5. Number 5 is the guilt trip. They're going to try to guilt trip you. Oh, how are you doing this to them at this time? Oh, I did so much for you, or why are you doing this to me now when I'm sick, or that this all this stuff is happening to me at work or in my business, or my parents are sick, or whatever it is. Like, this is just not a good time. Or you're breaking up the family, or if it's a business relationship, oh, you had a great thing going and you're just about to hit pay dirt. It's just about to pop. It's just about to explode. And why are you doing this now? So ungrateful for all the things that they've done, things like that. So, the guilt trip. Coverts are especially, they love the guilt trip. Coverts love guilt trips. They love gaslighting. They love passive aggressive moves. They're such cowards, such cowards. But, that's one of the things that they love as well, is to guilt trip you. All right, that's number 5. And you ready for number 6? This is the last one. And again, not an all-encompassing list, but a lot of the things that you can expect from them when the relationship goes south. That it's probably been going south almost since it started, right? But anyway, next is they will flood you with emails or demands or texts, or they'll show up at your house, or they will like push themselves on you, push an agreement on you, push themselves, whatever their demands are. You don't need a lawyer. They're going to try to say that your lawyer is horrible, that your lawyer just wants money, that they're not for you, that they have too much work, or whatever it is. They're going to try to get between you and your lawyer, because your lawyer potentially is now going to have control over you instead of them. So they definitely want to badmouth your lawyer. But they're going to badmouth anybody that they think is going to have control over you other than them. So they're going to really be like flooding you and pushing themselves on you in such a way so that you don't have a chance to breathe. You don't have a chance to think. They're going to make you think that somehow maybe you can work it out, that you don't need money, to spend money on lawyers, that you're being ridiculous, or you're being too rigid and you don't want to be rigid. So, they try to goad you into things. So that's the last one, is just flooding you, lighting you up, trying to like basically envelop you so that you can't breathe and move. Don't fall for it. Once you see these signs, you're going to know, I've seen you. No, I'm not doing it. I'm not falling for that. All right. So let's talk about what happens with a narcissist realizes that life sucks without you. It's kind of a funny thing because, I've dealt with narcissists in my life, unfortunately. which is why I have such a huge mission for this. I've dealt with them in my law practice, but I also dealt with them in my personal life. And so that's why I know and I understand the drama, trauma, and chaos they cause. And here's the narcissist paradox. That is that they treat you like crap, like the whole time they're doing all kinds of horrible things to you, very abusive, mind games, passive aggressive, actually aggressive, the whole time. And then you are finally like running away from them and try to get the hell out of there just to like save your sanity and preserve your soul. And then they turn around and they go, oh, why did they leave? Oh, I can't actually live without them. I need them back, you know. And so what happens when they realize that life sucks without you? Well, first of all, I'm going to tell you all of this, but I want you to know that you don't go back there. I mean, if you've successfully gotten the key, the golden ticket, and you're out of there and they're leaving you alone, thank Jesus and never look back. You know, that's where everybody wants to get to, honestly. I mean, you don't want them back in your space. They haven't changed no matter what it is that they say. They haven't changed. So don't go running back to them. All right. So let me just say that at the beginning. Like, they haven't changed. They're not going to, regardless of what they say or do, just leave it alone. Okay. But now what's happened? You're gone. You're not coming back. They realize you're not looking back. You have wiped them from the CPU of your life, which is what I tell you to do all the time. And now you've actually taken away their source of oxygen. You've taken away their source of food. And that's what we call narcissistic supply. They need an endless amount of supply in order to feel validated, to feel alive. And if they're not going to get it from you in the form of adulation, or you slaving away, doing things for them and, you know, making them look good, prestige, you know, some form of value that way, then they're going to get it from you, from devaluing you, debasing you, treating you poorly. You know, they literally do get off on that. And so when they realize that you're not coming back and that source of supply isn't there anymore, they're going to go through these stages. They're going to go, it's almost like stages of grief, you know, denial, anger, bargaining, you know, and then maybe acceptance, but probably never really fully accepting. I heard it described one time that they want to keep all of their sources of supply almost like people save up jam or something for the winter or something, you know, like people who have jams and jellies and things, and, you know, or sauces or whatever for the winter. That's what they do. Like they you know, they have a source of supply over here, but they also want the source of supply over there, and they want it from over here. They really are supply whores. So they're hoping that you'll still be a source of supply for them, if not to, you know, bolster up their ego, at least to bang you around and manipulate you and you know, cause you drama, trauma, and chaos, at least to do that. I mean, here's the thing. They completely took you for granted while you were around. They treated you poorly. They thought it was funny when they got away with doing things with you. And yet they somehow thought that you'd always be around. They somehow thought that you'd, you know, keep allowing that to happen. I just think they don't think it through. They don't think forward and think, well, this person might actually not want to stick around if I treat them badly. because there's another little paradox that's going on here, which is that they have this massive fear of abandonment. They don't want to be abandoned. They don't want you to actually leave. And they do happen to collapse, sometimes, which I definitely check out my video on that. What happens when a narcissist collapses? It ain't pretty. Um, but so they have this fear of abandonment. But okay, so once you leave, at first, they're going to line up their flying monkeys. They're going to try to get everybody to triangulate because they're still getting supply from all of this, right? So let me show you how I can make you miserable. Let me show you how I can do all of these things to you, and line up people against you and make you jealous and all of this. So they're going to start with that. And then the next thing they're going to go into is try to retaliate against you, and try to, their rage is going to come out, and so they might try to, blow up your phone and text you 5,000 times and flood you with messages or stalk you, and they may desperately try to get you back through love bombing or hoovering. Like I said, they want to keep all forms of supply. And so they're going to try to figure out a way to get you back into that web. So they might even file lawsuits to get your attention, to try to scare you. You're not going to walk away from me so easily. And, you definitely want to check out my video on what happens when you go silent on a narcissist, by the way. But then they realize eventually you're not coming back. That's when they're going to struggle. They're not going to have remorse for you and the things that they did for you, to you, but for themselves. Because at that point, they're going to realize, they loved that support that you gave them. They needed that. They needed your emotional support. They needed you to do the work for them or make them look good, or your whatever contributions you were giving them, whether it's your money or your sex or your ideas or your prestige or whatever it was that the reason why they attached themselves to you in the first place. They're going to realize that it's gone. And they're going to be, upset about that, but not because they miss you. It's because they're going to miss what you were doing for them. Remember, I always say they didn't attach themselves to you because you have so little value, even though that's how they treated you. They attach themselves because you have so much value. So then what they're going to start doing is they're just going to start like continuing to watch you. They will always be watching you. They'll always be stalking your social media or trying to see what it is that you're up to. It's just so creepy. By the way, if you think they're so creepy, give me a so creepy down in the comments. They're always watching you. I do have a video on that, by the way, like why the narcissist is always watching you, because they're so creepy like that. And they may begrudgingly, by the way, move on. They're going to try to find another source of supply. They have to slither on down the road and find another source of supply, because that's what they feed on. Otherwise, they don't feel alive. So they will go try to find another source of supply, but they're going to miss the supply they were getting from you, especially if it was really good. So they'll keep watching, they'll keep comparing, they'll look to see if you have something new or something better. They love to compare. Narcissists are big on comparing. And if you do have something better or bigger or whatever, it's totally going to kill them. They'll be super jealous. They will hate that, and they'll be stewing. But you will no longer care, right? All right, so let's talk about ways to defeat that narcissist, or the signs that you have defeated that narcissist. Actually, like, okay, you're negotiating with them and you're trying to figure out like how it's going. Are you close? Have you defeated them? Do you think that you're kind of on the way to defeating them? Because sometimes it's maybe hard to tell because they don't want you to know, obviously. I mean, they want it to look like they're winning at all costs and at all times, and they're never going to let on. I mean, even if they're like losing badly and things aren't going their way, and you're like showing them evidence that things aren't going their way, they're still going to say, I'm winning, it's going my way. It totally is. I mean, because that's how they've gotten along in life all along. You know, you can show them, hey, you know, look, these text messages show that you've been cheating. And nope, that's not what that says. That's how they get along. And I mean, I was actually just talking to one of my private clients recently, and she was telling me that she really appreciated one of my recent videos, which was 4 signs that the narcissist is losing control, which you can check out yourself if you'd like. And she said she loved that video because she was like, okay, like a lot of times, you know, she was saying, I'm afraid, I don't want them to lose control. I'm afraid of doing things that are going to make them lose control. And I don't want that to happen. But actually, she could see that that meant that she was starting to get there, that she was starting to make headway, that she was starting to cover ground, that she was getting closer to her goal of where she wanted to be. So that it was actually okay that in this case she was dealing with a husband, but you know, sometimes you're dealing with a business partner. I've actually dealt with quite a few situations where people are dealing with maybe a family member in a probate situation, something like that. But it's okay if they're actually starting to lose control, because that means that they are showing signs of being defeated as well. And so you don't necessarily need to fear that. And also remember that they have conditioned you. They have conditioned you to believe that they are winners, that you don't know what you're doing, that you don't know how to think, that they do, that they're smarter, that you can't trust your thoughts, that you can only trust what they think. They've really conditioned you to believe that. And a lot of times, you know, your thoughts, things that you think are actually your thoughts, are actually thoughts that they have conditioned you to believe. Okay. So 6 signs that you're starting to defeat that narcissist. Number 1 is they're going to start love bombing you again. They're going to start coming back. So, you know, what happens is they start going back to that well of things that worked for them in the past. You know, they don't have a whole lot of tricks in their arsenal. They have their things that worked for them, so they go back to whatever it was that worked for them in the past. I mean, they have these patterns, they have these playbooks that worked. And that's why, you know, it's kind of interesting. I mean, you know, when you start to study what they're like, they're pretty predictable in the sense that you kind of can tell how they're going to behave, even though it's pretty awful, but you can pretty much tell how they're going to behave. So they'll start off kind of small, you know, and then they'll kind of work up to the things that, you know, when it's really bad defeat. Okay. So, you know, the love bombing might start be the first kind of sign. Then the next thing is, okay, that didn't work, so let me go to the next thing. And that's when they start to get a little bit more desperate. So they start to flood you. They start to flood you with the text messages, show up at your house, show up at your office. You might start to see some crazy texts at this point. You might start to see some, you know, little undertones of not so nice texts, or maybe some even like threatening sort of language in the communications that you're receiving. So that, you know, it's starting to ramp up just slightly. You know, you're starting to feel that heat rise because they're starting to feel, you know, like it's coming. All right. So that's number 2. Number 3 is they start saying and doing all sorts of weird things. Like, this is where you start to see, like, where they kind of start to get like a little bit desperate, where they start to, get a little bit crazy. And so sometimes you'll start to see them just say weird things like, Okay, where did that come from? Okay. They get a little bit outlandish sometimes. And so that's, how it kind of starts. Like they get a little bit crazier, 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 crazier. And until they're just, full crazy and into collapse, and they've just become undone. And by the way, the mini series with Hugh Grant and doing great example of that whole thing, and I actually did a whole video on that if you want to check it out. Really great example of that whole thing. And so okay, so those first three are all about them. It's all about the narcissist themselves. And so those are all signs that you've defeated the narcissist, and that's about the narcissists themselves. So the last three I want to kind of focus on, signs you've defeated the narcissist. I want to focus on you, signs that you've defeated the narcissist, but focusing on you, because that's really when you know that you've defeated the narcissist, because you feel it on this side of the fence. All right. So number 4 is, that you've defeated the narcissist because you're no longer emotionally triggered. It's like they say things that normally in the past would have gotten you all like upset. It's like, Superman with the bullets that just pop off your chest, or Wonder Woman, they just like went right off your wrist, and you're like, did somebody say something? I thought I heard something, but nothing. I got nothing. It didn't even like phase me at all. Nothing. Like when you're not emotionally triggered by that at all, you've actually defeated the narcissist. Okay. That's number 4. Number 5 is you get what you want. You get what you want in the negotiation, but you've taken your ego out of it. What do I mean by that? That means that you've ethically manipulated the manipulator. They think they've gotten away with something. You've let them on to believe that they won, that they got something out of you, and you actually manipulated them into taking exactly what you wanted them to take. So, and you do your best Meryl Streep or Al Pacino or whatever it is, and you went, oh my God, I can't believe, this is all terrible, whatever. And because you took your ego out of it, because you know what, they have to feel like they won. And that's how it goes. It's okay. It's fine. That's going to be how it is. You have to let them think it's their idea, or whatever it is. Okay, so that's number 5. Number 6, the last one is, this is the best one, really. And that is, you no longer have any fear. You no longer have any fear in interacting with them whatsoever. Not only it's no emotion, you have no fear in interacting with them. You receive emails from them, you see them, you talk to them, you have no fear. And I get so many emails from people who've done my programs, who've watched my videos, all the things that I've told you guys to do. And then you tell me that that's the miracle. Yeah, you've gotten the outcomes you wanted, all those things. But the miracle is that the fear has disappeared. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to write in the comments, no fear, because that's your goal in defeating that narcissist. And where do you start? You start by getting my free Crush My Negotiation prep worksheet at winmynegotiation.com. You join me in my free private Facebook group, Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung. Come join me there. And of course, like this video, share it, drop me that comment, tell me no fear, subscribe to this channel, hit that notification bell. We're here for you. Today is the first day to start negotiating your best life, as always. And thank you so much for stopping by. And I will definitely see you in the next video.